I'm Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She is a financial advisor and, of course, mistress of coin, other than Miss Amanda Cassar.
Thank you for having me, Daniel.
Welcome, Miss Amanda. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I must?
Sure, I am a financial advisor. Like you said, I have two businesses that I run on the Gold Coast. I have a traditional financial planning business called Wealth Planning Partners and a small specialty business where I advise people on what the finances are to go into aged care called Trusted Aged Care Services. I also run a podcast and have a book called Financial Secrets Revealed. And I love to travel the world. I've got two children who work with me and two beautiful grandbabies.
Travel the world. I like that, Miss Amanda, for sure. And today, let's talk about a financial advice. So, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. What is the single most damaging emotional or psychological barrier that prevents people from achieving financial health, and how can they start to overcome it?
Oh gosh, there's so many that hold us back. But I think one of the biggest ones is probably what we know now as a scarcity mindset, where we've perhaps grown up without not much money and we think it's too hard to obtain. So we have ideas in our head about, I'll never have enough. I need to work hard to make money instead of thinking a little bit outside the box or more creatively. So I think there's a lot of things that hold us back that we probably learned in our childhood that are very difficult to overcome.
How can someone align their spending and investing with their core personal values so that the managing money feels less like sure and more like expression of who they are?
I think, firstly, it's becoming very clear on what those values are personally. If we have integrity, perhaps investing in a socially responsible manner is very important to us. Maybe if that's important, we don't want to buy from companies that exploit children or test on animals. So I think understanding what our values are is probably very important. And if we don't understand that, it's very difficult to then be aligned with what we want. Some people may say that, all they want to do is make money and it doesn't matter how they do that because that's just who they are and they want to get ahead. So I think, yeah, having a good, close look at what's important to us is the very first step to then becoming aligned with how we'd like to invest.
Miss Amanda, how does a poverty or scarcity mindset actively sabotage financial decision making? And what is the first steps to shifting towards an abundance mindset?
I think understanding what it is and our self talk. I mean, we're very busy in our own heads a lot of times telling us, are we good enough? Are we neat enough? Are we pretty enough? Are we rich enough? Are we, all these things that we talk about and think about that thankfully nobody can hear. But to be able to overcome any of those, I think we need to be educated. What's holding me back? What is my self talk pattern? What did my parents say? They maybe didn't even teach me, but things they said that have rubbed off and stuck with me. And we have to examine, do these beliefs still make sense to me? One lady that I interviewed in my book, Financial Secrets Revealed, told me that whenever they drove past a nice house, her father would say, they must be very bad people in there. Only bad people make money and get ahead in life. So she had this belief that everyone who had money must have been a bad person. So it wasn't until she was older that she examined that belief and went, is that really true? Do I believe that? Did some of these people work really hard to get ahead? Did some of them receive an inheritance? So, examining the beliefs that we keep telling ourselves because it's what we were told is very important. So, I think education is the first step to getting ahead.
Miss Amanda, many people have deep seated shame, fear, or anxiety around money rooted in their past. What does the process of healing your money story look like?
I think it is different for everybody, but taking time to reflect on those stories, it may not be very obvious to us, but perhaps every time we feel sad, we might spend money. Perhaps we eat. Perhaps we do something destructive. So, examining our own behaviors and going, look, do I need to go and buy possessions every time I feel a bit sad to make me feel better? Do I eat bad foods that don't help me every time I feel sad? So looking at our own behaviors first and then examining, is that a because of shame, because of not understanding, because that's what we saw modeled in our past, and understanding how that can hurt us, perhaps we can then turn that around. So instead of I'm going to spend money on new shoes or a handbag or groceries or bad food, we can go, I'm going to put so much money into an investment. I'm not going to buy that coffee. I'm going to start saving. So I think turning those habits around, that we would have spent the money anyway, but can we do it more positively in future? Just little steps like that might be the first case. Sometimes we might need professional help to be able to even examine ourselves, because we don't like to see the bad things about ourselves. We want to think we do everything well and, we're on top of it. But sometimes it takes other people looking in to be able to help us move along from those destructive habits.
On practical, actionable strategies, if someone is feeling completely overwhelmed by debt, living paycheck to paycheck, and has no savings, what is the very first non negotiable action they should take this week, Miss Amanda?
I think sitting down and working out where your money goes is the best step. Don't start with what you make, start with what you need to live. What does your rent cost? What does it cost to keep your car or your scooter on the road? Do you need to pay registration? Do you have insurance costs? What are your groceries costing each week? So, understanding where your money is spent, whether it's $400 a month or $4,000 a month, knowing where it has to go, even for annual bills, not just weekly bills, is about control. When we know where the money goes, then we can work out, am I making enough to cover it? Or do I need to do something else? Do I need a better paying job? Do I need to take on a second job? Do I need to cut down some debt? Do I have to stop spending on certain things, even for a short time, to be able to get on top? So I think understanding where our money goes is the first step to taking back control.
The word budget can feel restrictive. What is the more empowering framework for cracking cash flow and ensuring your money is going toward what truly matters to you?
I think we can rephrase it in our own mind. Maybe we could call it a spending plan, directing where our money goes. It feels like we're more in control of where we do the spend instead of, oh, I need to get on top of my bad debt. So if we are viewing it that I'm in control of where the money goes, I do need to reduce my debt, but that's all part of my spending plan. I think that can help us. You might have come up with a completely different word. I know some people call money their adventure fund or something like that. So come up with something that works for you.
Yes, definitely. And how should someone think about calculating their enough number for retirement in a way that's personalized to their desired lifestyle or not just a generic industry figure?
Look, I think there's so many calculators now that can help us with that. We don't have to pull a figure out of the air or say, everybody says X amount is the perfect amount, because there's very modest level of living, there's a comfortable level of living, and a very comfortable or even a luxurious level of living. So we may want to look at what does each of those look like for us. For some people like me who love to travel, maybe I want one trip every year that's an expensive trip, or maybe every second year I'll take a dearer trip and a smaller trip in between. So it depends very much on our desires, what our lifestyle would look like. I think starting with a modest budget and thinking, well, if I retire at 65 or 67 or 70, how much longer will I likely live? It could be more than 20 years that we need to make our money last for, because we're living longer. But I mean, we don't have to do the old retirement at 65 and leave the office and close the door and never go back. Many people are happy to work now for another 5 or 10 years, even part time, so that they're not just relying on either government handouts or their savings. So I don't think retirement looks quite the same for everybody now. I think we've got a lot more options to be able to consider for how to fund our later years.
Very well said, Miss Amanda. Beyond the popular avalanche versus snowball methods, what is the nuanced approach to tackling debt that also accounts for psychological wins and a long-term financial momentum?
Can you say that again, please? That was a
No
long question. Sorry.
worries. No worries, Miss Amanda. Beyond the popular avalanche versus snowball methods, what is the nuanced approach to tackling debt that also accounts for psychological wins and a long term financial momentum?
I think celebrating our wins. If we look at tackling debt from, perhaps we look at credit cards, we might have 2 or 3 credit cards. Maybe the one that's got the highest interest rate is the one that we tackle first. So as we pay the extra on that one and get it down, we celebrate those wins. Even if I got an extra $100 off, I got an extra $500 off as it comes down. And once it's gone, the psychological win of being able to cut that up, and then the money we've been putting on that to go into a different credit card, we're going to see the snowball effect come through quickly, because we're now putting extra money onto that one. So I think celebrating those little wins as we go is really important to help keep that momentum and keep us happy as we're making progress. Because it can be sometimes very hard. We often look at the gap where we're going, I've still got so much to get rid of. Whereas if we look at the gains we've made, going, actually, I've paid down 100, I've paid down 500, I've paid down 1,000, whatever it looks like for us, is really important and powerful in keeping us motivated to get on top of the debt.
On investing and building wealth, Miss Amanda, for a beginner, what is the most important concept to understand about investing that has nothing to do with picking stocks or everything to do with the behavior?
I think understanding that compound interest is probably the eighth wonder of the world would be one of the
Yes.
best things to remember. That once we start putting money away and getting interest on that, and then getting interest on our interest, that's a pretty powerful way to start building wealth. And it doesn't matter which stocks you're picking or what term deposit you're in. As we start gaining momentum, we're getting interest on our interest. And over time, that really pays off. We know how it works against us when we're paying interest on our credit card. So we need to make it
Yes.
work for us and not against us.
Definitely think wisely, people. Where is the right balance between automating your finances for simplicity, and staying actively engaged enough to make strategic course correction.
I think how we manage the money depends very much on us. In the olden days, we used to have a method we'd call the envelope system, where we'd put, $20 a week across different envelopes that were for different bills. I mean, it's very easy to do that now with bank accounts that are free, that we can go, this one's for the big debts, this is for my car debts, this is for my house debts or bills. So being able to be on top of our finances and putting the money away into the correct accounts so that we've always got it. All of a sudden, we don't get a bill and go, oh, I need to find $1,000, because we know we've been putting that $20 a week away all year. It's going to be sitting there for us when it's ready. That's very powerful, that we've then got control over our money. So I think that's an easy way of maintaining a bit of balance and being ahead, rather than always trying to play catch up.
Miss Amanda, as a financial advisor as well as the mistress of coin, what are your short term and long term goals?
Personally, we have recently taken on a bit of debt to build a house. So, reducing my long term debt for my house is a personal goal for me. And long term, putting enough money aside for my retirement. At this stage, I can't ever see myself not working or volunteering or doing something while I'm able to do it. So I don't think I'll turn 65 and hang up the boots. I'll still want to be able to help people or give advice and travel. So I need to manage, my current debt levels and also put aside for my future. And it's a trade off between doing both.
Yes, definitely. Looking forward for more success, Miss Amanda, and good luck to your goals.
Thank you so much.
And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be like you?
I think numbers and money isn't really sexy. Everybody's looking for the next, get rich quick or how to make it happen, fast. But maybe get rich slower isn't such a bad idea. And the way to do that is very simple. It's know your numbers, know where each paycheck has to go. And if you've got enough to cover that, if there's a little bit left over, you can work out what to do with that, whether it's bring down debt or start saving or investing for the long term, or realizing that you need to make a little bit more to put aside. So be in control. Many people think budgeting is very difficult and boring, but view it as being in control, and that can make it suddenly look a lot easier.
Yes, definitely. And thank you for that advice, Miss Amanda. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Yeah, one of the ones that was recommended to me was called The Richest Man in Babylon by George Samuel Classon. It's a very old book, more like I guess a fable or a lesson style of book about money. And it's one I still pull out now and then and read again. So try and find yourself that one, The Richest Man in Babylon.
Thank you so much for that recommended book, Miss Amanda. And in age of complex financial products and marketing, what are the key questions everyone should ask to avoid being sold a product that is not their best interest?
I think doing your research. Some countries now, I know Australia has one called Scam Watch. So if a product sounds too good to be true, remember that it probably is. If it's offering something that's just a bit too amazing, be very wary. See if your country where you're based also has something similar. I did have a client recently come to me. He'd had inherited $1 million from his parents, and he wanted me to put a plan together for him, which I did. And in the meantime, he'd found some very good returning bonds that he wanted to buy. So out of that money, he invested $750,000 in three separate bonds. He was an accountant by trade. And although the bonds were real, the company he used to invest in them was a scam. and he
Mm.
lost that money. And if he had looked on ScamWatch, he would have known that it was a scam company. So I think being very careful, it's not just people who don't know much about money who get caught. People who know a lot about money can get caught. The scammers are very sophisticated now. So don't feel like you're the only one who's ever been caught out. It's very easy now to be caught. But being extra careful, doing our due diligence. I mean, the internet's this, magical device we have in our pockets and on our phones now that we can look up and find reviews for companies, ask other people, and really do our research. And look, I know even then, sometimes we don't know for sure. But, if we make sure companies have a good long track record, they've been successful for quite a while, they're not a new fly by night, just appeared operator offering something that's a bit too good. Don't be dazzled by the sizzle. Don't get distracted by the sizzle that they're selling. Get rich slow.
Slowly but surely, people.
Exactly.
And be wise because there's a lot of scam over there. So be prudent in everything you do. Beyond
100.
basic emergency fund, what is the financial shock absorb anyone should have in place that they often don't think about until it's too late?
Again, coming back to the very boring know your numbers, if you know what it costs you to live weekly, monthly, fortnightly, whatever it works out, having 3 to 6 months of your wages or to cover your bills set aside just gives you that little bit of breathing space that if you do lose your job, if you get sick and can't work, many people now have to do a GoFundMe page and hope that people will help them. Where if you are in a position that you can put away 3 to 6 months worth of income, it's a great place to start for an emergency fund.
Yes, indeed. We encourage you people to pay yourself first.
Indeed.
Pay your first. Number one rule, pay your first yourself. And what is the most common financial mistake people make during a major life transition and how they can avoid it?
Yeah, I think jumping into things quickly. I know one widow who decided to go and build a $50 or $100,000 swimming pool not long after her husband died because someone in her family suggested it. And
Mm.
later on, when the widow's fog lifted, she sort of went, I have no idea why I did that. So I think, making decisions in times that when times are tough, um, if we've got the ability to be able to wait to make those decisions, I think that's a really wise thing. When we're forced to make decisions quickly, we don't have time to do the research, to see what our heart says, what our gut says. And I don't think we listen to our intuition enough when it's telling us this probably isn't the right thing to do. And look, maybe it will be the right thing to do, but not right now. So, listening to those cues that our body's telling us and having the time to do the research is always a good thing. If someone's pushing you to do something really quickly, walk away. It shouldn't have to be done right now. Often there will be other opportunities, even if you miss that one. So, yeah, don't be in a hurry to lose your money.
Again, people, slowly but surely. How do you define wealth beyond the balance in bank account? What are the non-financial components of a rich life?
Oh my goodness, there's so many. They're my favorite ones. Family,
Yes.
time, being able to, whether it's give time to your loved ones, volunteer. I think it's a gift that, you know, is one of the biggest gifts we have to give, our time, putting the phone down and just listening to people, especially older people who'd like to tell their stories, even if you've heard them 1,000 times
Yes.
before. It's a really lovely gift to be able to sit there and listen with our loved ones. Time to read a book, disconnecting from, constant distractions, games, email pop-ups, social media, being able to take time out, get back to nature, I think is really important. I live in a beautiful part of Australia where within 20 or 30 minutes, I have amazing beaches and beautiful mountains and waterfalls. And just making the time to go and enjoy those things, because we can all say we're too busy, and really we are, but we always make time for what's important to us. And if family and getting back to nature and disconnecting and reading a book, whatever is healthy and wealthy for you. I mean, travel is amazing to me. I love visiting new countries, seeing how other people live, and learning about differences in our lives, and knowing underneath it all we're still just people is really special. So taking time to do what's important for us, that's wealth.
Health is wealth, for sure. And how can people structure their finances to be intentionally and joyfully generous without jeopardizing their own financial goals?
I think using the old, what they used to call the bucket strategy, putting our money into different buckets. We might have a bucket for our bills, a bucket for our investments, a bucket for giving, a bucket even which includes our time that, we can give back as well. So working out how much of each paycheck goes into each budget, each bucket, is really powerful and gives us that control again when we want to spend from each of those buckets.
Yes, indeed. Control your buckets, people. Looking ahead 10
Make sure there's
years.
not too many holes in your buckets.
Yeah, make sure there's no holes. Make sure. And Miss Amanda, looking ahead 10 years, how do you think the role of financial advisor will change, especially with the rise of AI and robo advisors?
Yeah, look, I think there's absolutely a place for that, for people who are getting started and can't afford the fees involved in advice, to get some very basic investment ideas. AI can play a fabulous role, but I don't think anything will ever replace having a sounding board of another person, or that someone who can be your accountability buddy, to be able to work through those big decisions in life. I think it's something where we still want that human interaction. And the more we're going down this world where we're paying for convenience, people are happy to sit in their undies and play computer games and pay $10 for someone to deliver them their lunch or their dinner, because they don't want to go out anymore. And I think if we're good at something, we'll want to pay someone else who's good at something for us. So if we know, investing isn't our forte, but somebody's good at that, why wouldn't we pay them a fee to do that for us? If we want to pay a fee to have someone to clean our house because it means we can spend time with our loved ones or be working to make additional money, I think it's about what's our priorities. And even though AI will definitely be helping in some areas and robo advice, nothing's going to replace human connection ever.
Yes, definitely. Authenticity is for human, AI is for fake one.
Robots.
For sure. And Miss Amanda, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too.
Oh,
Comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth
you
season
are
as
so
well.
busy.
Yes. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love Letters in the third season, and Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first
Goodness me.
season. Please
Yeah, so
listen to
busy.
them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Amanda, if you could only give one piece of financial advice to everyone, regardless of their age or income, what would it be and why?
I think I'm just going to repeat know your numbers again, because it puts you in absolute control of where everything goes.
Yes.
Tried and true. Boring as batshit, but tried and true.
Boring, but you need it, people.
Yes.
You need to do it. Miss Amanda Cassar, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the
Thanks,
world.
Daniel. Thank you for having me.
Yes, so can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your business, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
For sure. Not a problem.
Yes. So where do people can reach you, Miss Amanda?
So you can find me on LinkedIn as Amanda Cassar or my website, amandacassar.com.au. Make sure you put the AU because otherwise you'll be looking at an American yoga instructor and not the Australian financial advisor.
We will. Dot AU, people, because Miss Amanda is from the West Coast,
East Coast of
uh,
Australia.
East Coast of Australia. So, people, let's support Miss Amanda Cassar because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering financial advocacy to come. So, Miss Amanda, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks again, Daniel. Really appreciate being part of it.
More to come, people. See you soon.